Hey guys, this is Jeremy Taylor within the DAW. Welcome back. Today's video is going to be taking a look at the Presonus PM2 stereo pencil condenser microphones. This is a pack of stereo pencil condensers that comes with two PM2s, which are stereo matched, a stereo bar, which allows you to connect both of them onto one stand. You can have them spaced or in an XY pattern. This is great for getting precise phase alignment and is actually very useful when recording drum kit or acoustic guitar. The frequency response is 40 hertz all the way up to 18 kilohertz, which wasn't very impressive to me because I'm used to using SM81s from Shure, and those are very nice and very detailed, but also have a nice warmth to them because they have extended low end and extended high end. Now, the price tag of an SM81 is substantially higher than a pair of PM2s, so that is kind of a big deal breaker right there. But the thing that the PM2s actually really impressed me on is that they are smooth sounding. And I think that's because they're not full range. Most cheap pencil condensers have this very harsh and shrill top end, and you can really hear it on hi-hats and cymbals where they sound almost like white noise almost. Very nasty, very nasally. Whereas this was very, very smooth and just sounded natural. So let's jump into an example. I did a pandemic style event with social distancing where we had a band come in. They did their full setup, and then we actually streamed it live onto OBS, into Zoom, and on YouTube. Because the budget wasn't very high, I wasn't able to provide them with the rentals that they needed. So we only used a SM57 on the snare, the Beta 52 on the kick, and then I threw in the PM2s as a free little rental because I don't own these and I'm not going to be trying to make money off of something that I don't own. So these were free, and we just used one straight down the middle. Let's listen to the recording of the band. We're getting rid of the keyboards and any of the extra stuff just because I want to focus on the drum kit. So here we go. To be honest, I wasn't expecting these overheads to sound as good as they do. Let's actually bypass them from the signal chain and we'll get rid of the guitar and bass. Let's add them back in. And let's take away the reverb. Let's solo them up. Listen to how natural that sounds. You'll notice that because they don't have transformers and all this cool stuff to add low end and depth, they're very clean. Because they don't have a full frequency response, they're very smooth. Cheap pencil condensers usually try to go full range, and that leads them to sounding very harsh because they don't have transformers and all these other components that add rich low end harmonics. And it ends up sounding either shrill or nasally. Whereas these don't try to add anything crazy to the sound, but they also try to smooth things out by not having the full frequency range. Also, notice that you can't hear the noise floor. At 22 dB SPL A-weighted, I was expecting to be able to hear the noise, and you can't hear it at all. Now, this is a live situation, but keep in mind that pencil condensers, due to the very small diaphragm on them, are much more sensitive to sound pressure, meaning that you blow on them and it's pretty much always going to cause plosive issues. So it's always going to be more sensitive than a large diaphragm condenser or a large diaphragm dynamic like I'm speaking into right now. Overall, I was actually very pleased with this. And with a little bit of reverb, the drums sounded fantastic just with the overhead alone. Let's put the guitar and bass. And what you just heard is literally the overhead, the guitar, and the bass. That is it, nothing else. That sounded fantastic. Let's throw the kick and snare in. This is great. Now, the processing that I did to the overhead is very simple, actually. I rolled off some low end, I boosted a little bit of 70 hertz, and then I cut right here because the snare itself had this really nasty resonance. I did not like it, but there's really not much we could do about that. That's how this snare sounded. A little bit of a dip at, what is this, like 11K or something? No, 1.1K. This was because I didn't really like the sound of the snare. Again, it was the snare. But for a live event, meaning that I wasn't able to actually position them perfectly, get two out there like I wanted to get a nice stereo feel, this sounded great, especially with the reverb, which is simply just a Valhalla verb, the vintage verb. I was able to get a very good sound with the PM2. Keep in mind, this is one PM2. I originally had both set up and I really liked the tone, but there wasn't enough inputs. The band had a ton of DIs, they had a ton of vocals, a ton of other instruments, and I wasn't able to do it. The guitars sounded great because it was just a 57 coming out of a cabinet that was being powered by a Kemper. The bass is just a Rupert Neve Designs bass DI. Right now it's being processed through the Helix native software that I use, which is just having a Sans amp on there. And the kick and snare are pretty simple. A Pro Q3, which on the snare, as you can see, I did not like the snare's tone right here. It had some nasty resonances. And then on the kick, we just did some crazy EQ curve just because I didn't have the Beta 91 that I usually use for my inside kick drum. So overall, for a very natural tone, I'm extremely impressed with the PM2s. And I have to say, I think I might be keeping these. I'm probably going to have to hit up Steve, my contact at Presonus, and tell him I really like them because these are really impressive. For the price point, I don't mind bringing them to gigs as very cheap rentals or even free rentals as a kind of goodwill thing. And if they break, I could just buy another pair. But the stereo bar is definitely really cool. I want to keep that at least because it is so useful. And the tone is not bad at all. It might not replace my SM81s for a studio recording, but for a live or podcast setup, this is definitely something to check out. I hope you enjoyed. And stay tuned because we're going to have a lot more videos on the PM2 and the PM1 from Presonus. This is Jerry Mateo with In the DAW. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.